Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for joining our Wellness Wednesday webinar. My name is Katrina Francis, and I'm working within the ESS Nutrition and Wellbeing team. Today's topic is on sustainable summers, so we are going to look at what we actually mean by sustainability and why it is important, as well as along the way I'm going to be giving you my top tips and swaps to make your summer more sustainable and also healthier as well. So first of all, what is sustainability? So sustainability is when we meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations. So it's all about making conscious decisions today that are sustainable for the years to come, rather than making rational decisions to benefit the ease of ourselves now, but not actually thinking about the future and some of the potential long-term effects of that action. Some sustainable developments could be looking at the economic sustainability, so supporting long-term economic growth without negatively impacting the community, whether that be socially, environmentally or culturally. Using renewable energy sources such as wind, wave and solar, rather than oil, gas and coal, which are non-renewable, which basically means if we continue to use them, they will eventually run out. And there's also sustainable agriculture. So this is looking at preserving and restoring habitats and improving our soil and water quality instead of farming practices which often lead to the loss of habitats, erosion, global warming, and also wasteful consumption of water. So it is obviously really important that we try and adopt sustainable lifestyles to maintain sustainability. Otherwise it could lead to an economic and environmental crash, and unfortunately that's likely to be within our lifetimes or perhaps our children and grandchildren, so it isn't that far off that we're looking at this, and that's why it's such a hot topic as well at the moment. So if one of the huge side effects of leading unsustainable lives is climate change. So climate change describes a change in the average conditions, so whether that be temperature or rainfall. And this is due to the greenhouse effect, which is when certain gases known as greenhouse gases, examples include carbon dioxide and methane or nitrous oxide, enter the Earth's atmosphere. And basically it prevents any heat from escaping, so the Earth is constantly warming up. And if you think about a greenhouse, the glass is keeping the warmth in for the plants and so on. And there are many human activities which do lead to a rise in these gases, and those include the burning of fuel to power factories, transportation, so when you're hopping in your car, getting on the bus or on the train, obviously all of that is letting pollution off into the air, cutting down trees, so deforestation, increased livestock farming, and also there's certain agriculture practices such as fertilizers containing nitrogen, which can lead to this greenhouse effect as well. And some of the impacts that we see due to climate change include droughts, storms and heat waves, rising sea levels, shrinking mountain glaciers, ice melting at a faster rate than usual, and changes in flower and plant blooming times. And I'm sure that we could all agree that in our lifetimes, we've probably experienced this a lot more often than what it was beforehand. Obviously, that's why it's such a forefront as things that we need to be considering to do to prevent it further. Another factor which is unsustainable at the moment in our living situation is the amount of waste that we are producing. Now, the fate of our waste varies and will have differing impacts on our planet. So waste can either be recycled, which is obviously the best option. This way it's going to be reused for a beneficial purpose. Or it can be burned, which produces tons of greenhouse gases, mainly carbon dioxide. And in 2017, it was suggested that from burning our waste, 11 million tons of carbon dioxide was produced. Or it can end up in landfills where obviously it takes up space and will result in biodiversity loss, contamination, and detriment to soil fertility as well. And some other detrimental effects of waste that we have seen is the amount of plastic which has been produced since 1950s, with only 9% actually being recycled. And also lots of marine species have been affected by plastic too. So obviously it's really important that we try and adopt a sustainable lifestyle to try and prevent some of those side effects to climate change, global warming, and so on. And we're going to start off by looking at how we can make our barbecues more sustainable, because at the end of the day, who doesn't love a barbecue over summer? So my first tip is to switch from single-use barbecues for lidded and vented multi-use barbecues. Now, this is a really effective way, first of all, to reduce the amount of waste which is going to be going to landfills. Obviously, single use, you use it once and you throw it away. Now, obviously, a reusable barbecue can be used multiple times. So it's not only going to be an investment to the planet, but also as well for your pockets in the long run too. Also, by choosing a barbecue which is lidded and vented is going to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide output, and we're going to be keeping it within the barbecue rather than letting it out, which will obviously contribute to global warming and climate change. And further, there are also benefits to the food by cooking it in a barbecue which is lidded and vented. So it cooks a lot quicker, it keeps the moisture in, and it can also be used for multiple courses. So it doesn't lose its heat really quickly. You can use it for the starters, mains, desserts, whatever it may be that you want to put on your barbecue. And it also creates that smoky flavour to our barbecue, which everyone obviously loves when they have their barbecue too. My second tip is to choose your barbecue wisely. So electric barbecues are the best option for the environment, as they don't necessarily give off as much byproduct while cooking. However, electric barbecues are perhaps seen to be quite similar to an oven, so not many people tend to use these. So you may want to opt for a gas barbecue, as these are better than coal. They produce less carbon dioxide. However, if you do obviously use a coal barbecue, it's all down to preferences. Try and opt for good quality wood charcoals and natural fire lighters to start it up, as often the ones which are imported will have lots of nasty additives and chemicals which, when released into the atmosphere, will contribute more to climate change and obviously other environmental impacts. This one is obviously a lot more down to individual preference. You may already have a barbecue, you may not now want to decide to invest in another one, but just trying to make that better option if you do so. Tip number 3 is to say goodbye to single-use paper, plastic, cups and crockery. Although you may think that actually paper plates are recyclable, as soon as they get any sort of grease seeping into the plate or any sauces or food residue left on there, they can't actually be recycled. And even if we were to put them in the recycling bin, that would make the rest of the bin just have to go to landfill. So although perhaps you think it's a good idea, it's probably not the best. So if you can, try and use cutlery and plates which can be reused. These can obviously either be from your kitchen cupboards and drawers, or if perhaps you're having a big event, you don't have enough, often a lot of local supermarkets sort of rent them out to you. You leave a deposit and you just pay for any damages which are made. So that can obviously also be another option. If you are a regular diner outdoors, you go for picnics often, then you may want to opt for a bamboo set, which is better for the environment. And although obviously it may be beneficial by using paper plates, as you're not going to have to do as much washing up, do just have that little inkling about the planet and the amount of waste that you will be producing from your barbecue. Tip number 4 is to only cook what you eat or love your leftovers. So food waste is not only obviously costly for the environment, but it's also costly for our pockets too. When we waste food, it's not just the food that we're wasting, but it's also the energy and the water that it uses to grow, harvest and transport it. And when food goes to landfill, it rots and it produces methane, which is obviously one of those greenhouse gases. And this accounts for around 8% of greenhouse gas emissions. So where we can, we obviously want to use up those leftovers and not waste so much food from our barbecues. Tip number 5 is to switch your normal shop-bought sausages and burgers for plant-based alternatives. This is because for just one beef burger, it requires 58 gallons of water and 42 square feet of land. And if we compare this to a plant-based burger, the beef burger uses 99% more water, 93% more land, and it produces 90% more greenhouse gases as well. Also, for every 1 kilogram of animal protein produced, that is fed 6 kilograms of plant protein too. So we've got to really consider we're trying to feed the animals of space as well. Because there are obviously lots of different factors that have to be considered, it's not always straightforward to determine which foods are more sustainable than others. So we can't necessarily say that meat's obviously more sustainable than vegetarian, but livestock, it has been shown that agriculture and livestock farming are one of the biggest contributors to a lot of the environmental impacts as well. So that includes greenhouse gas emissions, so due to the methane production, particularly from cattle and sheep, leads to a lot of deforestation, so much of the rainforest has been cleared to rear livestock or create the plantations to grow the food for the livestock. Seen biodiversity loss, soil pollution, and also obviously uses a lot more land and a lot more water. So with food production, obviously something that we can do to be more sustainable, it's something that we do every day we eat. We need to look at more sustainable diets. So food production contributes to approximately 30% of global greenhouse gas emissions. It occupies 40% of global land, it uses 70% of fresh water, and has led to around 60% of world fish stocks to be fully or overfished. So we want to try and have a more sustainable diet, which has low environmental impacts that contribute to food and nutrition security, and to have a healthy life for the present and future generations. So how can we have a more sustainable diet? So we can reduce the amount of animal foods in our diet. As mentioned on the previous slide, they are associated with larger environmental impacts. Buy locally grown foods or eat seasonally. So if we're buying foods which are in season and locally, then obviously that means they're not going to be transported in from another country, which uses up more, which releases more carbon into the air, that carbon footprint of the food. Throw away less, choose fish and animal foods from sustainable sources, and include a flexible dietary pattern. So not always choosing the same foods. It's really important we get a variety. So including large amounts of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and so on. Perhaps reducing the amount of red meats, processed meats, seafood, poultry, just because those are the ones which perhaps are less sustainable. Next, let's look at how we can try and make our barbecues a little bit healthier as well as more sustainable. So as always, we want to try and think about the Eat Well guide, which is the government guidelines to achieve a healthy, balanced diet, but also just some specific things for barbecues. So the first one is to choose your sides wisely. It's very easy to have your burger or whatever it is that you'd normally have and add everything which is on offer in terms of sides, whether that be coleslaw, chips, roasted vegetables, cheese, sauces, and so on. But as you can imagine, they all add our calorie intake up, may lead to weight gain, just tipping us into that positive energy balance. So instead, you might want to swap wintry sides to summer sides. Make your own potato wedges, obviously with the skin on, it's going to increase fibre content as well. And obviously go into your local food market to get fruits and vegetables. And also try and choose whole grain starchy carbohydrates. So opt for whole grain burger buns with nuts and seeds on, or add whole grain rice and pastas to your salads as well. Just to make sure as well we're meeting that Eat Well guide, we've got that starchy carbohydrate, which is really important for energy as well. Now let's look at some other ways to be healthy and sustainable throughout summer. So the first one is to stay hydrated. So it is advised to drink 6 to 8 glasses of fluid per day, which is around equivalent to 1.5 to 2 litres of fluid per day. Now, fluid is vital for many bodily functions, helps regulate our body temperature, excretes waste as well as toxins and waste, and it also is there to transport nutrients within our blood to all of our vital organs. Now, obviously, during the summer months, we are likely to sweat a little bit more, hopefully, if the weather is out, meaning we are going to be losing more fluid. So it's really important that we do try and top the amount that we are drinking up and top our fluids up too. So thinking about this, how can we make sure we're also sustainable when we're staying hydrated? So try and get yourself a reusable bottle. Use hot drink cups as well for in the winter, it's not just in the summer. Say no to plastic straws, whether you're going to get yourself an iced latte, turn them down, or perhaps have a reusable one in your bag as well. And also look out for national and local refill schemes to stop yourself buying another bottle. So if you've got your bottle with you, see if you can go into a shop or a restaurant looking out for these refill schemes and topping that up rather than getting yourself another. Now, other ways to be sustainable is to try and save electricity throughout the summer. Fantastic time to do so. And there's a number of ways to do this. Those can include getting outside. So just being outside more, you're encouraging yourself to turn off any electrical entertainment devices. So your TVs, your laptops, unplugging everything as you go out. So try and get outside more. Hang your clothes up. So obviously, hopefully with some more lovely weather, we can put the clothes on the line rather than using the tumble dryer, which you can imagine uses a lot of electricity. I've got one of those smart meters in my own home, and obviously when the tumble dryer has been used, you can really see that the pennies are going up as well. So do try and hang your clothes out where possible. Open your curtains. So hopefully you do this anyway, but obviously bring in the natural light in. Don't need to turn your lights on then. Really embrace that natural light to try and save the amount of electricity and also the pennies obviously within our pockets. And also throughout summer, try and travel wise. So emissions per person are calculated by space. So if you are lucky enough to be able to go abroad this summer, get on a plane. I know you might be thinking, I've not been on holiday for 2 years, let's treat myself to business class, first class, and so on. But actually, those have 2 to 3 times more emissions than if you were to travel in economy. So just try and be that little bit more considerate, and just using an economy seat is fine. Choose a staycation. So if obviously you're not able to get abroad, you going somewhere closer if you can, closer to home as well. Obviously, meaning we're not having to travel so far, and distance really does matter. The more you're traveling, obviously, the more emissions that you're leaving behind as well. Stop idling. So actually, for anyone who's not unfortunately able to go on holiday, whenever you're in the car, whether you're going to work or just out for the weekend, try and turn your engine off, whether you are stuck in traffic or at a red light. And finally, where possible, use public transport. So reducing the number of cars on the roads will obviously reduce the amount of emissions. More people on one train or one bus, whatever it may be, will obviously lower emissions as well. So just a quick summary then, we all play a really important role in ensuring a sustainable future, and it really is the small steps that every single one of you can take that's going to make the biggest difference. If obviously we all go away from today and just think, I'm not going to change anything, then you're not doing anything to benefit the environment and our planet. You can be wise with your barbecues, ditch single-use plastics by going to purchase yourself a reusable bottle, try and save electricity, and travel wise by opting for the more sustainable options. And just a quick reminder and run through of all of the other resources we have available. We've got the newsletter, and this we usually get one each month, but obviously we did that summer bumper newsletter, which can be found on our website, or if you go onto, or if you give us an email, will you be able to get that? We also have lots of other resources, monthly webinars. Obviously, today is one of those. We have our Instagram Q&As on the 3rd Wednesday of every month, as well as the Mindful Moments webinar on the 4th Wednesday. We have the newsletter, mental health newsletter, and toolbox talks too. And a very quick reminder that we are always here to support you. Obviously, where COVID is hopefully now lifting, we're going to be out and about a lot more often, hoping to support you on your sites and your teams and our everybody. So please don't hesitate to give us an email. We can do health fairs, book us in for a smoothie bike. We can do presentations and so on. Obviously, there are still virtual options available as well, but hopefully we're going to get out and about more as well. So thank you very much for listening. Hopefully you can all go away from today's webinar and put something in place to be more sustainable, or at least have that slight inkling in your mind and think, oh, must grab my reusable water bottle before I leave, or must make sure next time I go buy some coal, it's the better quality local coal as well. So if you do have any questions, please do drop us an email. But other than that, thank you very much, everybody, for attending, and speak to you soon. Goodbye.